Hi everyone, thanks for coming to today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. So this is the Infragistics 14.1 What's New webinar. So I'm going to walk you through all of the great things that we've done for 14.1. Hopefully you've had a chance to download it. If you haven't, I know you're going to want to once you see all the great stuff that we have to talk about today. So really, Infragistics Ultimate 2014.1 is all about everything you need to build stunning apps. This covers mobile controls, desktop controls, web controls, our design tool, Indigo Studio. It covers the entire spectrum of tools that you need, from the design to develop to testing a great user experience for your customers. My name is Jason Beres. My email is jasonb@infragistics.com. Feel free to email me if you have any questions about the webinar or about anything we're doing, if you have any feedback. Really, what drives the product is your input. So the more that you tell us about what you expect and what you need, the better the product's going to be for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So Infragistics Ultimate, we look at this as everything you need to build stunning apps. What does that actually mean to you? So it really means that you have the most complete best-of-breed UX solution for bringing together users, designers, developers, and testers that enables the delivery of a great user experience, fastest to market, and the best outcomes. So we really want to give you the tool set that helps you be successful in your job every day. So what does that actually mean? To us, it means three big sort of overarching messages. The first one is around building Office-inspired, touch-enabled, enterprise-ready applications. This covers HTML, ASP.NET, Windows Forms, all of the major platforms that you care about. So today you build for the desktop, you build for mobile, you build for tablets, you build for the web. It doesn't matter. We want to help you build those types of touch-enabled, enterprise-ready apps, and we want to help you do it the fastest with pre-built project templates, wizards, designers, and galleries. And you're going to see some of that in what we've added to 14.1 in today's presentation. The second thing is really something I mentioned in the previous bullet around connected. Building connected experiences for any type of device. So we want you to be able to target any type of connected mobile experience across desktop, tablet, phone, with cross-platform hybrid, cross-platform Xamarin, MVC, HTML5 jQuery, Objective-C for iOS, Java for Android, C#, XAML, you name it. If it's an important platform today, you can bet that Infragistics is there with tools that will help you be successful doing your job. And then finally, being able to brand and style your applications. So we've had a really good story for many years in platforms like ASP.NET, Windows Forms, WPF around styling, and we want to continue to do that. We're going to deliver new styles in 14.1 in ASP.NET, IgniteUI. We're going to continue to add new styles to our Windows Forms product as well. And then you'll also see in 2014, we're improving our styling experience around WPF. So to you, when you actually download and install the product, Infragistics Ultimate for 14.1, I think this boils down to four key messages that I want you to think about as we go through today's deck. And then when you download, as you're looking at the samples and as you're using the product in Visual Studio to sort of see how we did. The first one is around Office-inspired, touch everywhere, enterprise ready. The second is around improving your productivity by helping you write less code. We actually want you to write less code. We want to give you starter kits that you can say, hey, this looks beautiful, it looks great, it kind of does something that I want to do. Let me see if I can get my data in here without changing a whole lot. Or even so, just change or just take our themes, take our design and make it work for your application. The third is around that branding and styling. If you want to deliver a great mobile experience and you want it to look like iOS 7, we have that style for you. Our new ASP.NET style mimics our IgniteUI style in HTML, so you can actually move controls back and forth between those two platforms and they look seamless and they look like they will run together with no problem. And then finally, number 4 is helping you build for any hybrid or native desktop, tablet, or phone platform. You're going to see we've done some big investments in Android for 14.1. We've revamped the story we've had there. We've already had a great story on iOS, and of course we've had over a decade of experience around the C# platforms, Windows Forms, ASP.NET. Now we have the XAML platforms for the last 7 or 8 years, and then with the MVC and hybrid apps, we pretty much cover all of the platforms that you need to build out any type of experience. And this really is about helping developers build stunning applications. So we want you to be more successful delivering beautiful applications that are fast, have great styling, and are easy to use by your customers. So let's get right down to what we've done in 14.1. So first, one of the key differentiators in Infragistics Ultimate is around our design story. So there is a way that you look at building software, and it should start with some sort of prototyping. This prototyping, perhaps in the past, was on a whiteboard, it was on a piece of paper on the back of a napkin. With Indigo Studio, you can do that in an interactive way and then share that prototype with your stakeholders and get that approval and buy-in before you actually write code. And in fact, as you know, last year we added a bit of code generation to Indigo Studio. So as you design screens, you can actually export those screens to HTML and jQuery. But what we've done in Indigo Studio with 14.1 is really help you build out better interactive prototypes with something we call screen parts. So screen parts are reusable custom UI elements and interactive widgets that you can create. Basically anything on the screen can become a screen part, and then you can share those libraries across screens, projects, or teams. Why is this important? This is important because when you're building out an application, a lot of the stuff on the screen might be the same from screen to screen. So for example, I could have buttons that look the same. I could have menus or navigation that looks the same. And in the past with Indigo Studio, you actually had to recreate that on every screen. Now with screen parts, you can actually create something, select it in the UI, and say, hey, make this a screen part. We automatically add that to the toolbox for you, and then you can share that across your design team. So essentially, you're creating a design language through screen parts that you share across your design org, your development team, across your enterprise. And that's the real beauty of screen parts, is it really lets you share the same content, the same UI elements across screens, across projects, and across teams. So when we think about designing for reuse, you can take a screen part, or you can select UI elements, make a screen part, they go in the toolbox. You can take that screen part from the toolbox, drag it onto a screen. When you drag it onto another screen, you can actually make that, edit that instance of the screen part or edit the global screen part. So you have a lot of flexibility in how screen parts actually work on the screen. So let's go ahead and see how screen parts actually work in Indigo Studio. So here I am, I have Indigo Studio opened up, and what I have is a project. Let me click menu. I have a project called Using Screen Parts. George Abraham, who is the product manager for Indigo Studio here at Infragistics, did a blog post around screen parts, and you can go to blogs.infragistics.com and download this and sort of check out what he's done here. But you can see what we've done on the main screen for this project is we've added the screen parts filter. So I can just look at my screen parts. In this case, I happen to have 16 different screen parts of varying complexity. So here I have a new account screen, which is a screen part. I have a popover dialog. You can see these are nicely annotated. They're sorted by date. And this is the collection of elements that I have created over time for this particular application. So if I just filter this by screens, you'll see I have a team page, a blog page, a product page. So if I go into the blog page, I'll double click this guy and it comes up inside of the designer, and I select an item on the page, one of the UI elements. You'll notice we have a blue border around the control, and it says that this is actually a screen part. So you'll see here I can edit this instance of a screen part. I can edit the source screen part. So for example, if I edit this screen part instance, I'm right inside of Indigo Studio and I have access to the screen part, everything else sort of faded into the background, and I can go ahead and modify this particular instance of the screen part. Now that I'm back, I don't actually want to save it. I just want to give you guys the idea of how this works. I can also edit the source screen part. So then I'm actually into the source. So you can see here we just have a different screen that pops up. That is the screen part editor, and I can go ahead and modify this. And if I modify this, it's going to actually modify it for every screen in my project. So once I save this, it's going to affect everything that I'm actually working with. So the idea is that for this particular application, I may need to edit something that affects this app. I can add that to the toolbox. I can add another level to my toolbox and add another screen part that looks exactly the same, or I can just edit an instance of the screen part that I want to work on across multiple projects. So you'll see here I'm trying to save this. It says, hey, you're updating a screen part. What do you want to do? Do I want to update all the screens? Do I want to show the screens that this affects? It affects 3 screens. I'm going to go ahead and update all screens. That's fine with me. Now, if I go back to my project home, I'm going to click new, and I'm going to say create a new screen. So now I have a new screen. This is a website. You'll notice in my toolbox I have all the screen parts that we saw earlier. Now in order to use the screen part, I simply just drag and drop that screen part right onto the form. And so now I can reuse this across screens. If I go to UI elements, let's grab a tab here. And this tab I'm just going to resize. Make it a little bit different size here, like so. And I'll grab a title, and we'll put the title right there. So now on the screen, if I select this multiple items, the tab and the title, I can convert this to a screen part. So now automatically this screen part ended up in my screen part library. So you'll see here it's uncategorized. I can rename it or modify this instance of it, but now this is available to me to use across multiple screens. So that's really the beauty of screen parts, is that I can take UI elements, combine them, add them to my toolbox. I can use them across this project, multiple projects across my enterprise. They're all in a single directory in my project tree. So it's very easy to send these to my coworkers. So with screen parts, we really think it's going to accelerate the development of screens and accelerate the development of prototypes that you're running with Indigo Studio. So let's go back and look at what we've done in WPF. So in WPF, it's the same story. We really want to help you build stunning applications fast. And we've done some stuff in 14.1 that we really think will help do that. One of the areas, besides styling in this Office-inspired app, was around MVVM. We heard you loud and clear. We know our MVVM story hasn't been great in certain instances over the last few years. Well, we've worked on fixing that, and we think we've done a good job in delivering that in 14.1, and we hope to hear that back from you as you start using these controls and start using them in your enterprise applications. So the first thing let's talk about is this Office-inspired Touch Apps message. So across WPF and Windows Forms, you're going to hear a lot about our Pixel Perfect Office 2013 styles. So we have the most pixel perfect Office 2013 ribbon that you can get on the market today. Not only does the ribbon area look beautiful, but we've also done the ribbon chrome. So when you're running Office 13 on Windows 7 or Windows 8, you'll notice that there's sort of a highlight, and it's sort of raised off the screen on how Microsoft built the window Chrome for Office. Well, we've duplicated that exactly how Microsoft has it. So no one can deliver an Office 13 UI like Infragistics can with 14.1. The second thing we've done is we have the ribbon, the backstage, the office window, and the tab level toolbar. So when you're building an application, you actually get all of the stuff that makes it look like an Office 13 UI. We were lacking in a couple areas. We added a couple features, but overall now we've sort of completed this view of how you would like to duplicate that Office experience and the apps that you're building for your end users. A lot of these applications end up looking like Outlook. So you've got a nice ribbon, you've got an Explorer bar on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you might have a few grids, some charts. when you click the File tab, you want the Backstage to pop up. Well, you have all of that now. So you could be hard-pressed to actually tell the difference between an application that you write and Microsoft Office. In fact, one of the showcase samples that we ship in 14.1 is called Infragistics Outlook, and it looks exactly like Outlook. So if you run this sample app that you get with the product and you put it next to your version of Outlook, you're going to have a hard time telling the difference, and you're going to have a hard time when you click back and forth. The second item, or actually the third bullet I have here, is the radial menu. So we shipped this in a CTP in the previous release, and now it's an RTM. So you have that nice OneNote MX-like radial menu experience, which is perfect for touch screens. And it allows you to really deliver a modern UI in WPF on a touch device. Now there's two really exciting new controls that we're shipping in a CTP. The first one is a diagramming control. It's called the XAM diagram, and I liken it to Visio. So any sort of diagramming experience that you want to deliver, any sort of templated UI that you want to deliver as far as diagram elements on the screen, you can deliver with this control. So it does things like help you build class diagrams, flow diagrams, floor plans. Pretty much anything you can imagine you can do with this diagramming control, and we'll look at that in a second. And then finally, another new control, which I think is going to be huge. It's in a CTP. We're going to work on it a little bit more over the summer and RTM it later this year, is our spreadsheet grid. So one of the challenges that you would have with the Infragistics XAML grids is that they're column-based. So for example, if you want to have a combo box in a cell, you really have to have a combo box in every cell in that column. And that's just how tabular grids, most tabular grids work on the market. But Excel works a little bit differently. Excel, you can have multiple tables within a sheet. Each cell is addressable. Each cell can have a different UI control inside of it. Well, we've duplicated that experience in the XAM spreadsheet. And again, I can tell you, we have samples in the CTP. If you put this against Excel today, you're going to be hard-pressed to tell the difference in performance and visuals of the Excel engine or the Excel application and our XAM spreadsheet control. And the nice thing is this is built on top of our Excel engine, which really is one of the richest Excel engines on the market today. And you'll see even with 14.1, we've added some new features around password protection and encryption inside spreadsheets. So you can open encrypted password protected spreadsheets, and you can actually save spreadsheets now with passwords and encryption. Now earlier I mentioned around developer productivity and ease of use. There's a lot of words here, but basically the message that I want to get across is we've done more work to make our data bind controls more MVVM friendly. So things like selected data items scope in the XAM data grid, in the XAM combo editor having selected value path. In the XAM data tree, we have an active data item property. So the idea is you're using MVVM. You want to not have a bunch of code behind and XAML to actually achieve something like basic data binding, basic selection, being able to have controls grab the correct value out of a selected cell or a selected node. We've done the work to make that easier for you. We've done a lot of MVVM enhancements, and we really want to make sure that this is the sort of developer productivity features that you expect in our XAML controls. Continuing on with the developer productivity story, we've done features across a bunch of different controls. So first off, the XAM Rich Text Editor. We have full HTML support now. So you can actually copy and paste HTML into the XAM Rich Text Editor. As you type, you can get HTML out of it. There's a really rich HTML engine now inside the XAM Rich Text Editor support. XAM Pivot Grid has KPI support. The nice thing about the XAM Pivot Grid is that this is part of our cross-platform strategy where we use a lot of code translation. So the KPI support, since it's in the data engine, ends up coming across in all the platforms. So now you get KPI support in the XAML platform. You also get it in jQuery and HTML. XAMPP data grid, we added a couple new filter operands. We added record numbering. So this means in the grid, you can actually have a custom number which can be templated on each grid row, so users can say, hey, there's row number 3, and you can make it look and say whatever you want. We've added IME support for rich text editor and syntax editor, so this helps in languages that expect IME to render correctly. I already mentioned the Excel framework. We've added encryption support, and then a minor feature but requested. A lot of this stuff comes from user voice, so this is all features that you guys have posted on the user voice site at ideas.infragistics.com. We added the isUndoEnabled property to the XAMPP inputs, which many of you are going, what are you talking about? But hey, you know what? We try to take a fair amount of new features from user voice every release and ensure that we deliver them in the product. And then finally, around styling and stylability, this is something that we started last year. We talked a little bit about in 13.2. We did some work in the HTML IgniteUI product around styling on our data visualization controls. But what we heard from our customers, from you guys loud and clear, was that by default, the data visualization controls were not beautiful. So when you were building apps and you dragged a control onto a form, you actually had to do a little bit of work to make it look good. And this just wasn't the colors. It was things like the padding and the formatting and the animations and just that entire default experience. So now we have a brand new default style. We believe that now when you drag any of the DV controls, in fact any of the controls onto a form, you don't have to touch them. They're beautiful by default. They have the exact right and correct defaults that you would expect as far as how it looks on the page, how things like padding, the font, how horizontal and vertical bars are, how tooltips work, how the animation works. So we did work here, and it took us quite a long time because we do one of the ways that we scale on controls is through translation to make sure that core engines are the same across every platform, which means we need a lot of automated testing. So we had to rewrite and write a ton, like thousands of new automated tests to ensure that what we shipped in the past works exactly like it works now with this new style and the new defaults. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of these WPF features that we've shipped in 14.1. So here I have the WPF Sample Browser up, and of course this installs locally when you install the product. And you'll notice, and this is the same in the last few releases, but it's really easy to find out what's new and what's been updated. So you'll see here the little flag that says new. You'll notice the Excel engine's been updated. As I scroll down, the XAMPP combo editor, we talked about some of the MVVM enhancements. A lot of updates here. There's our new CTP control for XAMPP diagram, etc. So it's really easy to just find out and figure out what's new, what's exciting, what you should actually check out when you open up the WPF Sample Browser for the first time. So let's just jump right in and take a look at the XAMPP radial menu. So here we have the XAMPP radial menu. It looks like just a dot. And the idea is this is a touch-friendly menu control. Think about it as a context menu or sort of a hierarchical tree structure which has menu items. And then each one of these can be customized to whatever you'd like. In this case, we're just looking at it as an editor. So if I select a bunch of items in my editor and I click it, it can go bold, it can go italics, I can hit undo. But the idea is that this is a touch-friendly control, and as I interact with stuff on my page, the menu can follow me, I can resize it, I can close it or open it at will. We have some nice animation. Also, you'll see here you can customize the way it looks. So this is just changing the heights and width. You can have any number of menu items. In this case, we have 7 items. We have bold, italic, undo, redo, cut, copy, paste. You can have 18 items. You can have 32 items. They can actually do whatever you want. In our Windows form samples, we actually use this as a filter for car or for auto parts in one of the showcases that we ship. So it ends up being a pretty rich control, a robust control with different types of items. So here if I select some text, let's look at the color tool. So now with the color tool I can select the actual color that I want this item to be. Let's change the foreground color to yellow to make it look better. But all of this is built in. You don't have to go ahead and say, how do I create a color tool? How do I build this template? We actually give you a bunch of different tools with the radial menu, so it's really easy for you to go ahead and just do the basic stuff that you would expect. And this is inspired from OneNote. So OneNote MX, which is the new Windows Touch app that ships on in the Windows Store, uses this to interact with OneNote. So you're formatting text and font and all that other stuff with the radial menu, and you're doing the same thing with this control. We have this control now in WPF. We have it in Windows Forms, and we also have it in jQuery and HTML. So you can deliver the same types of apps, the same types of touch experience across any one of those platforms. So XAMPP diagram, let's take a look at a couple XAMPP diagram examples. So first, I'll just bring up this class diagram. I think this is a classic example of something you could use a diagramming control for. Each one of these elements I can expand and collapse. You'll notice that it's sort of an eye chart. It's hard to see. We have the overview plus detail pane, so I can use this to zoom in to a particular item. I can move this around. You can see we have different connectors, different node types connecting the classes. I can interact with these items like so. And again, this is all templatable, so you can make this stuff look however you want. It's 100% up to you how you create the elements that end up in your diagram. So here we have an activity diagram, same concept. In this case, we have the little tool editor. So when I select an item, you'll notice that my gear glyph pops up. So let's click this guy. We have some general items like cut, copy, paste, delete. I can change the shape, the opacity, height, width, the X and Y location. I can modify the color. I can change the line connectors, the stroke, the thickness. We have the dash type tool, and then I can change the text with the font. And again, this is all CTP, so there's a few things this does not have yet, so we don't have a full data binding store yet. We haven't completely styled things like this tool, but you can still go ahead and start creating interactive diagrams. We've done a lot of work on performance, so you can bind thousands of nodes and connectors all at once, and you really have a great performance in making that happen. We have full commanding available, and you can go through these samples and check all that out. And of course, we have a toolbox which has some shapes and connectors that you can build out experiences where you can see here I'm dragging and dropping elements. I can go ahead and take a connector, bind it over here, and then we try to stick to wherever you're trying to go with the mouse. And then each one of these can have customizations as well. So let me change my line type to sort of an open circle like so, and you can see that it's changed on the control. And I can do the same, draw another line over to this side, and basically start building out a diagram. And that's the whole point of this. So you can your imagination can lead you to wherever you like, as far as the types of diagrams, the types of application you need to deliver, the types of workflows that you would like to visualize in your apps. So I look at things like the XAMPP diagram, the radial menu. Of course, we had we talked about our Office 13 Windows, some really cool innovations that we're doing along with that XAMPP spreadsheet. And then, if I want to talk about developer productivity, it's really around all the MVVM enhancements we did in 14.1. So I'm not going to go through any more of these samples. You guys can download the samples and check them out. But everywhere where you see updated, you're going to see new features, updated features that we've added for 14.1, and we continue to invest pretty heavily in the XAML controls. So let's go back now and take a look at what we've done in Windows Forms for 14.1. The story around Windows Forms, and I get emails a lot from customers about Windows Forms. Hey, Jason, don't abandon the Windows Forms developers. There's still a lot that we're doing in Windows Forms. Please keep adding features. And I can tell you, if you look at the market today, at any vendor who's doing Windows Forms, we are very far ahead. I was looking at some competitors the other day, and they're just adding features that we had in our grid back in 2007, 2008. We have such a rich product, but we're still continuing to invest. We recognize that you guys have tons of Windows Forms projects out there. You're building new Windows Forms. You're adding features to your existing Windows Forms projects. And so last year, I mean, we added unbelievable capabilities with the Ultra Touch provider. So, you know, drag and drop onto a form and magically everything becomes touch enabled. We added the new live tile. We added the radial menu. You can create an entire Windows 8 beautiful experience with Windows Forms with Infragistics Ultimate. And I can assure you, we are not stopping. We are going to continue to invest in Windows Forms. We're going to continue to deliver great experiences in Windows Forms in all the controls. So anything that has to do with touch, modern UI, Office-inspired apps, we're right there with Windows Forms. So with 14.1, what we did is a lot of work around the Office 2013 visual styles. So we ship ISLs now, Infragistics style libraries for App Stylist in white, gray, and light gray. So not only do we have that pixel perfect Office 2013 ribbon style that we shipped last year, that of course has the touch view, it allows you to run this on a touch screen or a non-touch screen. Now we have all of the styles that your users would expect that cover all of the controls. So you can build out a really beautiful looking Office 2013 style app in white, gray, and light gray. And your users, again, just like the WPF example, you can build out these apps and they won't be able to tell the difference if it's the real Office or if it's something that you built with Infragistics Ultimate with Windows Forms. So this continues to be something that is a high priority for us. The second big thing we did around Office Inspired for 14.1 is we are shipping a pivot grid. This had to have been probably our #1 request over the last 2 to 3 years. And we've done the work. We actually have the same core engine in Windows Forms that we do in XAML and in jQuery, and then we built the UI on top of it. So you have this pivot grid experience. You have a data selector, a data connector. You can use XMLA to connect to XMLA data sources, like Oracle allows that protocol, SQL Server Analysis Services, or you can just use MDX queries. So the pivot grid is a big deal. We heard you loud and clear, and we've shipped it, and we're going to continue to add features to the pivot grid throughout this year through 14.2 and of course 15.1. So we're excited to get your feedback. We know that OLAP data becomes pretty important. It's a pretty important aspect of the types of applications people are building today with analytics and dashboards, and now you can do that with Infragistics Ultimate in Windows Forms. Around developer productivity and ease of use, I mentioned this earlier, but I really can't stress enough the work we've done around this template gallery. So giving you new one-click starter kits. So we really want you to just click one of these guys, open it up, love it, and then use it. So you don't have to worry about how to design the screens. If you want to understand how code works back and forth through navigation, how does this all work? We've written all the code for you. These are real life. They have data in them, real data, beautifully styled. Please take them and make them your own. Do what you need to make them your own. The second thing we did is around a new samples browser experience. This is a work in progress. So with 14.1, we've delivered a beautiful new samples browser, but we haven't converted every sample yet. We have literally 14 years or 13 years of samples in Windows Forms that we have to kind of go through and pick the best, maybe do some new ones, restyle, etc. So we sort of got a portion of it done for 14.1, and we're going to continue to work on it. We're going to finish it up in 14.2. But I think you'll like the direction we're going, and we're really making it obvious what's new, what looks better, and highlighting new features up front, and then allowing you to go in and look at code, copy code. So it's a whole different type of experience with this new sample browser. And then if we look at just developer productivity features and sort of what we've done around developer productivity for Windows Forms, we are always going to continue to add features from user voice directly from customers. So here's just a few things that we've done around the grid enhancements. So spacing before and after columns, buttons and column editors, editable column editors. Believe it or not, you couldn't turn off the delete confirmation in an easy way. You had to write code to do that. We've rectified that. and then showing and hiding summaries per level of group by. So with that, let's take a look at some of the Windows Forms new stuff we've done in 14.1. So this is the new Windows Forms Sample Browser. So when you open up the new Windows Forms Sample Browser, you're going to see something that looks pretty radically different than what we've done in the past. So here we've got some of the new showcase samples, one-click templates that we're shipping in 14.1. So we've got the Outlook CRM, we've got an inventory management sample, a project management sample, Intune and InGear are samples we shipped in 13.2. We have IG Paint, which is a completely revamped UI for the IG Paint. And then if I keep scrolling to the right, you'll see some of the new stuff. So we have the pivot grid demo, and then some other demos like right to left, spin button acceleration, etc. So if I click into the pivot grid demo, we'll go ahead and open this up. And as that's opening, you'll see here on the bottom we've got links for the legacy samples and some of the other options that you have. So here's the pivot grid demo. If I drill in, you'll see that this pivot grid is actually going back to the server to get all of the data that it's trying to render. So over here on the right hand side, you've got the data connector, which has the cubes that we're going after. The database is in the cubes. We've got all of the measures and dimensions that we can drag and put over into our pivot grid area. We can use filters on each one of these guys and basically filter out data that we don't want. So let's just look at 2003, 2004. It updates it, and the same like with category. If I filter this out and I get rid of clothing, you'll see that we're getting rid of clothing here. And of course, you can drag and drop items from the data selector over to the pivot grid, and it'll automatically update. We've got a theme chooser here, so we've done some work around making sure that the themes look good. And of course, beauty is always in the eyes of the beholder. So here, let's take a look here, and we've got some different options here. Also, C# and VB code. So if I click C#, you'll see we have a code viewer now, and I can very easily select code, copy to the clipboard, and then just paste this into my app. So we're really looking at making it much better experience around the sample browser, and we're excited to start this with 14.1, and like I said, we're going to continue this moving forward with 14.2. Next, let's go ahead and open up Visual Studio, and I want to show you the one-click starter kits. So here I've got Visual Studio fired up. I'm going to go ahead and click New Project. Now what happens when you install 14.1 is in your template path here of platforms, you'll notice underneath Visual C# you've got Infragistics. And then in Infragistics you've got the Infragistics template gallery. So let me go ahead and double click that, and now our custom UI is going to pop up. So this UI is actually going off to our server, getting the various templates that are available to you to go ahead and load up. So you'll see I have all of the platforms, all volumes loaded up. So I've got some Windows Forms. I've got all brand new MVC templates for Razor and ASPX. ASP.NET, we actually have a phone gap template here in Visual Studio. So there's a lot of new stuff here that you can just go ahead and start messing around with. So let's check out inventory management. So if I just select inventory management, I've got this create new project dialog. We'll just leave everything the same, and I will click OK. So now it's going to go ahead. If this template, since this is coming from our servers and from the Visual Studio gallery, let's say we decide we're going to do a new template next month, we can just update the XML on our server, and it's going to show up in your template gallery. You're going to say, hey, there's an update, and it'll show up. And then once the template is downloaded, it's going to be running local from your machine. So then the next time you want to use that same template, you don't have to go download it from the server. So anyway, let me go ahead and double-click inventory management form .cs. So this will open up the file in the designer. And what you're going to see is that this is a fully designed form with all the stuff that you would expect. You select an item, you go to the properties, you're messing around with properties. It's basically a fully done application. If I go ahead and view the code, the nice thing about Visual Studio is we have the code toolbar here on the right-hand side. You can see that there's plenty of green, so there's lots of comments, and there's plenty of code here, so you can actually understand how to build an application that works like this. And that's our goal, is that this isn't some phony smoke and mirrors thing that you're not going to be able to work with. This is actually a running app that looks beautiful that you can go ahead and modify. So if I just hit run and this starts up on my machine, and just so you know, my machine's a Core i5. I think I have 8 gig of RAM. It's an Asus ZenBook. It's a touchscreen. It's a beautiful device. So it's not like I'm running some super fast computer here and that's why everything's running so well. It's just a standard laptop, touch laptop. But you'll notice here we've got a beautiful looking UI. If I click something like orders, my order screen comes up. We've added the schedule control here. So we've tried to come up with some scenarios that might make sense for you. So this UI isn't your standard Office feel, but it looks like an Office inspired app. It's beautiful. It has beautiful colors. We sort of have an interesting navigation on the left-hand side. We have all these controls in here that actually work. You can click on things and stuff actually works like you would expect. We have scheduling, we have grids, we have charts. So we really want you to take this, change the name, change what the icons are on the big buttons, and then use this design for your app. Or how about you just use the ISL that we created, the style library, for this particular application. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about developer productivity is, we could add features all day long and we'll continue to add features to the product, but we really want to deliver more of these templates, more vertical based scenarios, more ideas that you give us so we can help you and everyone build applications faster. So that's some of the nice stuff that we're doing on Windows Forms. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing on the website. So the story around the web apps, again, as you've heard over the last probably 2 years, is we are investing in MVC, we are investing in HTML, we are investing in jQuery. So IgniteUI is a very important product. The usage has skyrocketed in the last 12 months. So 24 months ago, I would say there was a ton of interest, a ton of people that said, hey, I'm going to kind of get my feet wet and try to understand what this is. I remember we did webinars and we had 2,000 people show up or 3,000 people show up on a webinar just to understand what the heck HTML5 was and what the heck jQuery was. Well, now people are using it. Developers are getting the directive from on high that the next app has to be MVC or it has to be jQuery and it has to be a responsive design that can run on a tablet, on a phone, on a desktop, because that makes life easier for applications in an enterprise where I can write something and run it on multiple devices. But I want to assure you that doesn't mean we're not working on ASP.NET as well. So ASP.NET is still important. We're still continuing to add features to ASP.NET, but we look at these platforms as a set of controls that you can use on one or the other. So I can build an ASP.NET application and use a jQuery control. I can build a jQuery application, and it kind of follows into this whole one ASP.NET story that Microsoft is pushing. So we really want to give you all of the controls across the major web platforms that are going to help you build great experiences for your customers. So here's some of the things that we're working on and that you're going to see in 14.1. Number one, around developer productivity, we have a very exciting new feature around a web IDE. We are creating a WYSIWYG tool that helps you build out screens faster in IgniteUI and jQuery. One of the things you don't get in Visual Studio is a drag and drop experience for jQuery and HTML. We're giving that to you, and you're going to love a little video I'm going to play that sort of sums up a few reasons to sign up for our preview of this new exciting tool. We've got new themes. I mentioned iOS 7 earlier. We've got a new default ASP.NET theme that matches IgniteUI. And another cool feature that is sort of in a preview is our new Twitter Bootstrap theme mapper to ASP.NET. So there's tons of Bootstrap themes out there, hundreds or maybe thousands, I don't know, but they're everywhere. I want to use one of those themes in my ASP.NET project, or I want to use it on my HTML jQuery project. So what we're doing is we've actually built a tool that maps Twitter Bootstrap themes to ASP.NET. And that's going to evolve over the remainder of this year to map to ASP.NET and IgniteUI. So that means the sky's the limit on themes. You don't have to wait for Infragistics to create some theme that you saw elsewhere that looked nice that will work with IgniteUI or our ASP.NET product. You'll just be able to grab that Bootstrap theme, and make it work. Of course, Theme Roller already works with our jQuery product, IgniteUI. We have the web app stylist for ASP.NET, but I think this takes it to another level of capability. We've also shipped some one-click starter kits just like we did in Windows Forms. We have a healthcare phone gap template, which will look great on a tablet, it'll look great on a phone, and we've got all new MVC starter templates. So we've been shipping MVC templates now for about a year, maybe a little over a year. One of the things I didn't like is that the templates really didn't match what Microsoft ships in their default MVC template. Well, now we actually match the folder structure, the way Microsoft sees, or the way you would expect a Microsoft template to look is how the IgniteUI templates look now, but we've also integrated in controls so you get a little help. So you can actually run one of the templates, look at the code, see how they work, and then get up to speed faster with MVC with these new templates. Another huge feature is full two-way data binding in Angular. So this is up on GitHub. Do a search for IgniteUI, and you'll see you'll be able to grab our two-way data binding pull for AngularJS. This is a market first. There's a lot of folks out there that say they support Angular, but they support it in kind of one hokey way or another. We've got full two-way data binding support with all kinds of examples, with the grids, with the tree views, and all the other controls. So that's a pretty exciting feature for us. Then in the web data grid on the ASP.NET side, we added a new row editing CRUD behavior, which makes it really touch-friendly and mouse-friendly, so I can have an obvious experience when I'm editing. When I go into a grid row, I get all of the editors enabled, I get an OK and a cancel button that can all be templated, and really it just delivers a better UX around building a CRUD app. Then we've done a bunch of new controls and enhancements to existing controls. So the HTML editor, we did a bunch of new usability and refactoring in that control. I think you'll really appreciate what we've done there. We added some smaller new controls because of the refactoring on the HTML editor. So we've added a split button control, a toolbar, a color picker. On the grid, big feature is around maintaining state between sorting and filtering. So I want to maintain the state of the grid after I filter on a column when I go from page to page or when I interact with other controls. So that's a new feature, highly requested. Column fixing now works with column hiding. This was one of the complaints we got. We shipped column fixing. We knew it wasn't quite done yet because there was a few features that didn't quite work well with column fixing. Well, column hiding was one of them, and now that's shipping. So that feature is pretty much complete now. And then we've done some new things around templating. And one of our goals with IgniteUI, or just a principle, is to make IgniteUI extensible. So we don't want to force you to use our templating, or we don't want to say you have to use this particular templating or this particular history library or anything. We want to make the controls extensible. So if you're using something very specific that you like, a third-party open source templating engine or history engine or whatever, it'll work with IgniteUI. So we've done some work there to ensure that that works even better. And part of that was deprecating our own row templating option that we had in the past. The popover control we've RTM'd. We have the new radial menu control, which I mentioned earlier. You may or may not have caught this earlier, but when I mentioned about the KPI support and the ADOMD support on Windows Forms and XAML, the idea is this is a cross-platform engine. So we build it in C# and then it translates over to other platforms. So we get this feature in jQuery. If it's in Windows Forms, you're all making it in jQuery. If it's in WPF, you get it in Windows Forms, etc. So ADOMD Provider is a new feature for Pivot Grid in MVC. And then, of course, the KPI support that we talked about earlier. So let's take a look at that video that I mentioned earlier around the new Web IDE.
Hey everyone, it's Allie, and today I'm going to show you 6 reasons to sign up for early access to our new HTML5 page designer found in IgniteUI. This designer gives you the tools you need to drag and drop your way to HTML5 app mastery. Take a look at what you get. First, the IgniteUI page designer is the first WYSIWYG designer for advanced HTML5 line of business and data visualization apps that produces clean, professional quality code. You can use the built-in responsive breakpoint visualizer and designer to see and manage your breakpoints. Leverage responsive grid frameworks such as Bootstrap and IgniteUI. Easily discover the components you need in the toolbox and just drag them onto your page to quickly get started. Through our easy-to-use component panel, you can explore and configure component properties and easily add event handlers. Together with our integrated API docs, you don't have to know it all up front to effectively leverage the sophisticated components in the toolbox. The Page Designer allows you to graphically configure the IgniteUI data source to pull the data you need from your web services and simply bind them to your components. And lastly, you'll enjoy our integrated help extensions in the Ace Code Editor, used by GitHub, Wikipedia, and many more, to see and edit the code as you design your pages. As you can see, the IgniteUI Page Designer is an amazing new tool, and while it's not available just yet, you can request early access by emailing us at igniteui@infragistics.com. Drop us a line and we'll get you signed up for the first private preview so that you can help shape the future of this empowering tool. Coming soon to your tool belt.
So next up, let's talk about native mobile. I mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but we've done some big work, I think, in our native mobile story. Our goal with native mobile is to give you the ability to deliver the same type of application on every platform with the same feature set. So we're not going off and saying, hey, we have an iOS team and they're doing their own thing, and our Android team is doing their own thing, and our Windows Phone team is doing their own thing, and our Windows UI team is doing their own thing. We have a very structured way of looking at shared XAML, sharing code, code translation across all of these platforms. The work we've done in 14.1 is really around Android. So you know in the past we've had Iguana. Iguana UI was sort of prototype Android controls that we built from scratch. They didn't fit the feature set or the API of any of our other controls. So if you've used our native iOS controls, you're like, yeah, those are basically the same control, the same feature set, same API as I would get in jQuery or that I would get in C#. Well, same story now for Android. So we are taking all of those data visualization controls, all of the charts, 40, 50 some chart types, our bullet graphs, our radial gauges, our barcodes, everything, you name it, and we're moving it over to Android. So that preview ships with 14.1. You can grab it off the website. It's very exciting. You can put it right on your tablet, right on your phone, and you can start seeing the same experience that you get on iOS and in C# on Windows Phone or in WPF or in jQuery in a hybrid app. You can get that now on Android. And we're going to continue to do that. So with 14.2, you're going to see more controls. Next year, you're going to see more and more controls, and they're going to be the same controls on every platform. So it's not about just the same controls. It's the same controls with the same capabilities, the same API. So you don't have to make a choice where it's like, oh, I have to do hybrid because I don't get this other capability in an Android control. No way. You can deliver a hybrid application in MVC, HTML, and do responsive web design and run on any platform, no problem. Or you can choose to write a separate app for Android and a separate app for iOS, and we're going to give you that same capability. So that's the goal. We've done a good job on pretty much everything but Android so far, but that story is changed with 14.1, and we're excited to deliver this to you, and we're excited to start getting your feedback on the Android story that we're delivering, and really our cross-platform story. And you'll notice across the top we have Xamarin in big letters. Xamarin is a great story as well. We have Xamarin bindings in our iOS controls, and what we're going to deliver later this year is just Xamarin builds of our native controls. So you'll be able to say, hey, I'm a C# developer. I don't really want to use Xamarin bindings in an Objective-C app. I just want to use a Xamarin control that I can build with the Xamarin runtime. Well, you'll see that later this year as well. Another big thing we've shipped in 14.1 is Windows Phone 8 SDK builds. Okay, yeah, maybe many of you aren't using Windows Phone or building for Windows Phone yet, but it's important to keep up with the latest SDK, and we do that now with 14.1. And then, as I mentioned, we do have some great PhoneGap templates that we're shipping in Visual Studio. And then, obviously, the Visual Studio ones can deploy out to Windows Phone, but we have templates for iOS and Android as well that help you build out apps quicker. So pre-built apps that actually look good, so you can go ahead and start messing around and figure out how PhoneGap actually works with HTML on these different devices. And then very specifically in Nucleus, which is our native Objective-C controls for iOS development, we've done some new controls and enhancements across existing controls. So data chart, just really sort of usability and beauty enhancements. So rounded corners, data point highlights, range selector improvements on the grid. We've got expandable section headers, dynamic row sizing. So that's really about text wrapping. So each row now can have a different size based on the text size. We have some new controls, flow layout, slide tab, barcode readers. And then overall, we're improving that install experience. So with iOS, we sort of used a standard, out-of-the-box install. So we're improving that UI and UX in the install every release. So big story on native. Go to the website, download Nucleus from the App Store, download our new Android controls from Infragistics.com. So with that, let's wrap it up. We're just about at an hour, maybe a little more, a little less. But let's talk about 14.1 in summary. So we look at this as everything you need to build stunning apps. We're delivering performance, we're delivering ease of use, we're delivering styling. And if we go back to the very beginning of our talk, the first few slides, everything you need to build stunning apps includes, touch-ready, enterprise capabilities. It includes styling, it includes branding, it includes controls for every platform. We're bringing that to you, and we want you to look to Infragistics Ultimate to give you everything from that design and ideation with Indigo Studio to the build with any platform that you want, all the way out to the test with our testing with IBM and HP Quick Test Professional. So we're delivering all of this today. We want to continue to deliver innovation to help you get your job done quicker. Some other items that we really don't talk about a lot, but I've highlighted here in the bullets is around performance. We do know we market test against competitors, against Microsoft, on how fast our grid loads, how fast our chart loads, how fast you can pinch and zoom on a chart on an iPad 2, on an iPad 3, on an Android device. We do that work so you don't have to. So by the time you get these controls, they actually work really well. We support you 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. We're the only vendor that actually provides that level of support. And we provide it in forums, email, phone, and chat, and we do it worldwide. So we have teams in Europe supporting you, we have teams in the US, and we have teams in Asia Pacific. We have an office in Tokyo, of course. We have offices all over the world to make sure that when you're building apps, doesn't matter what time zone you're at. If you work for a big bank that has offices all over the world, we're not all in the same time zone. You can make sure Infragistics support is available to make sure that you're successful in delivering what you need in your applications that day or the next day. So what do you need to do? All this excitement, all the great new features that you saw today, download the product. I mean, I just scratched the surface on what we did in 14.1. Hopefully you got a good idea of the breadth and depth of what we're delivering, but go ahead, Infragistics.com, products, ultimate, and download the trial. If you're an existing customer, it'll actually download the platform installer, and then you'll get exactly what you need. You just log right in the platform installer, but you need to experience this to see all of the great stuff that we're putting out in 14.1. The next thing you really need to do once you download it and you're getting started is go check out all of our videos on YouTube. We saw Allie tell us about the great IgniteUI IDE and why you need to get it. Well, she has a ton of videos on YouTube that talk about the new features, that talk about how to use existing features. So we're really building up this library of video content on YouTube to give you the help that you need to be successful with the product. And then finally, read the blogs. We have so many great blogs out there that help you build great applications and great experiences. Go to blogs.infragistics.com. Brian has been answering questions online all throughout the webinar today amongst some of the other product team members. But you're going to see blogs from all of these guys at blogs.infragistics.com, and it goes either a little deeper than something maybe that you've asked about in a Twitter post or a forum, or it's just something that we know we couldn't hit in the doc. So maybe we didn't hit a topic that we know we should have. They're going to end up on the blogs. You're going to get good samples and good content there. So with that, I want to thank everyone for attending today. We're going to stay online for probably the next 10 minutes or so, continuing to answer questions. I will post these slides up on our blogs later today. You'll also be able to view this recording. If you couldn't have your coworkers all make it, it'll be posted on the blogs as well and on YouTube, so you'll be able to view it there. If there's any questions that you have, please feel free to email me anything at jasonb@infragistics.com. And I want to thank all of you, of course, for being customers or prospective customers. And I hope you enjoy 14.1. So thanks for listening. And like I said, we're going to stay online a little bit longer to continue to answer questions that are coming across. And we'll see you guys online. Thank you.